is 5. My name is Leslie Simmons and I'm the Vice Chair of the OAC. Welcome and thank you for attending this OAC meeting. We ask that everyone please place their phones on silent, and if you're joining the meeting remotely, please mute yourself when not speaking. If you're a member of the public attending in person and you would like to provide public comment, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. For members of the public providing comment remotely, please click raise hand or press *9 and wait for the Zoom administrator to notify you it's your time to speak. All comments will be taken in the following order: in-person participants and remote participants. Each speaker will have the standard 2 minutes to speak. When your time is up, you will be notified by the Zoom administrator. Rebecca, please start the roll call.
Member Andre Tory, absent. Member Aaron Yen, absent. Chair Jada Curry, absent. Vice Chair Leslie Simmons.
Here.
Member Skylar Dang, present. Member Brian Galvez, absent. We do not have quorum.
So due to quorum not being met today, this will be an informational meeting only. And we'll be tabling a few items, including item number 3 for the next meeting. The next item on the agenda is our general public comment. This is reserved for public comment items that are not listed on the agenda. Is there any in-person public comment? Raphael, is there any remote public comment?
There are no public comments.
Public comment is closed. Okay, so we're tabling item number 3. The next item on the agenda is the review and approval of the minutes. Do we still take comment at this point, or do we table discussion and approval for the next meeting? Okay, so with that, we will be tabling item number 3 for our February meeting.
Just for clarification, it's the review of the minutes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, item 4, the next item on our agenda is the budget proposal from Maria and Heidi, CFO. Great, over.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, everyone, for being here. As you all know, it's our budget month, actually budget 2 months. So back in December, all departments received budget instructions from the mayor, and by now, I'm sure many of you have read in the newspaper the dire budget situation that the city is in. So today we want to share with you that message, our budget instructions, as well as the proposal that DCYF is currently working on to meet the budget targets that the mayor has requested from us. To start this off, I just want to say that we want to, at DCYF, committed, we as a body are committed to make sure that, because we have this little RFP thing that's out in the world right now, we want to make sure that we're going to be responsible with how we make these budget cuts, because we do not want to be in a situation where we make a budget cut and then later have to come back and make more cuts to disrupt services for kids and families, which is just not fair on top of everything else going on in the system. So that's a first commitment for us, is to try as best as we can to hold true to the commitment of ensuring that CBOs are funded at a level that will ensure quality services are able to be implemented, and that there will be consistency in that funding over the term of the grant cycle. The second commitment we are making, which I shared with our staff, is that we acknowledge and understand that it's going to take a lot of our staff to support the CBOs that will be implementing this work. So we are making the commitment to our staff to keep our staffing level intact, so that we will have enough staff to support CBOs as they go through this process to meet the big goals and results that we're asking CBOs to achieve. So both of those are the things that I want to say upfront. And with that, I'm going to hand this over to Heidi Burbidge, our CFO, who's going to share with you in a lot more detail, all the things that has to do with budget. Heidi, take it away.
Okay, great, thank you. This PowerPoint is in the packet, it's on the website, and there's a lot of material in here. I'll just go through this and highlight some things that I think are most helpful for discussion here, but there's more information available. Feel free to ask questions or to refer to the files after at any point as well. Next slide, please. This timeline might look familiar to many. This is just the annual budget timeline. I'll highlight a couple of things here. The purple arrow is the exciting period we're in now. Budget instructions were issued by the mayor's office in December, and we are working on our departmental budget submission along with other city departments to submit in a little more than a month. So that is the phase we're in developing our departmental budget proposal. Next slide, please. In late December, the 5-year financial plan update, the joint report was issued. And in this PowerPoint, we have a number of slides from the mayor's office, including the instructions to DCYF and other city departments, just to show you what we are looking at during our purple arrow phase. Next slide, please. The city's fiscal outlook. The rate of expenditure growth, far right, this is the city's general fund revenues. So expenses are up, revenues are down. What we're looking at is a 245 million deficit in the first budget year. That's next year, fiscal 24-25. Goes up to 554 million in the second budget year, 25-26. Worsening deficits in coming years following that. DCYF, along with other departments receiving general fund funds, were asked for mid-year cuts. We submitted those. Those have already been incorporated. It was 1.6 million for DCYF. So these figures already reflect those mid-year cuts. We've been asked for additional, all city departments of general fund have been asked for additional reductions of 10% in each of the budget years, plus an additional 5% contingency cuts out of our general fund portion. Next slide, please. Just some of the major assumptions. We have decline or nominal growth in major tax revenues, including just flagging hospitality sector rebound shows that it's beyond this budget period. Transfer taxes are at 2011 levels. We have tepid business tax growth. And as many people have observed, lots of coverage in the news, ongoing reductions to property taxes, office market besides. For salary and benefits, CPI growth on open contracts on same schedules, police and fire the next 2 years. So assuming the same. And then growth on non-personnel costs also are included. Next slide, please. This just shows in table form that we get to the same percent amount. So the projected cumulative projected shortfall or deficit at the bottom, which will show up again at the bottom. Next slide, please. So some of the revenue assumption trends to highlight: just high office vacancies negatively impact property, business, and transfer taxes. So 3 different areas. We're seeing significant business tax rate of dispute and litigation, which requires city to have additional reserve collections for these risks. Hospitality industry expected to recover again, but after this plan period. If over the past couple of years, you'll see the city experienced a rapid bounce back after COVID. Hard to say after COVID, after mid-COVID, but then plateaued. Local and state sales tax growth is slower than previously forecasted, and then flagging one-time sources, including FEMA funds and fund balance transferred, have already budgeted. So we're seeing some challenges on many funds. Next slide, please. Just highlighting some things that key expenditures citywide. Salaries and benefits increased by nearly 500 million over the plan period. Required baselines grow by around 200 million, and they include the newest Student Success Fund, Prop G, which grows to 35 million in the first budget year and to 60 million by 27-28. Citywide operating costs, multi-year inflation on all general fund nonprofit grants, in addition to the others listed, and other major costs, just to highlight here, include shelter costs due to expiring state grants, commitments to subsidizing housing for formerly homeless, and IHSS program growth. So big expenditures for the city. Next slide, please. This just shows salary and benefits, 30% growth in 5 years, trending up. Next slide. And then healthcare costs continue to grow 9 to 10% in the projection here. So the black line shows the premium changes. Next slide, please. All right, risks and uncertainties in the fiscal outlook. So elevated interest rates are dampening business investments. Real estate transactions are down and borrowing costs are high. The level of assessment appeals and other tax refunds, the volume has tripled. Significant state budget shortfall, 68 billion at the time of the slide, and threat to ERAF grants and funding for other programs. And then retirement contribution rates, their year-to-date returns are trending negative, which could increase higher employer contributions for the city. Next slide. With that, the mayor's priorities for this budget period are improving public safety and street conditions, citywide economic vitality, reducing homelessness and transforming mental health service delivery, and accountability and equity in services and spending. Next slide, please. So the specific instructions to departments were to reduce general fund support by 10% in each of the 2 budget years. In addition, submit contingency proposals of ongoing 5% cuts in each of the 2 years. And then just noting the instructions included the departmental budget reductions will help address only a portion of the total shortfall, and the mayor's office will convene departments to propose other solutions and strategies. Next slide. For DCYF, our cut target amounted to 7.98 million for each of the 2 years, with a 3.99 in contingency. So those are the amount of general fund cuts we have to identify for our February submission. In addition, we are to implement mid-year cuts that are ongoing, which we did not affect grants, did not affect staff. The instructions were also not to add new FTE, instead to prioritize staffing key areas, again, based on the mayor's priorities. And departments should fill only essential FTE in the current year and plan towards using additional vacancies for budget savings, focusing on core operations and services. I'll just flag here, I know Maria had already mentioned a commitment to keeping our staffing level. In addition to that commitment, the way the DCYF is budgeted, the vast majority of our positions, unless they specifically have to be budgeted in general fund or in children and youth fund. So our vacancies could not contribute to our cut targets. So we will follow the mayor's instructions, which are to review any fill carefully to ensure it's in key service areas, essential operations. But those savings would not count towards our general fund reductions. Next slide, please. This is just a pie showing our operating budget and other programs. So you see PEEF is brown, Student Success Fund, and its second year is the lighter blue, Free City in yellow, and the operating budget of 1.992 million is our purple portion. And the next slide. And the operating budget shows the source. So in our operating budget at this point, our proposed 24-25, Children and Youth Fund accounts for 1.29 million, with general fund of 59.8 million. And then we have a smaller portion that's federal, state, and other grants. And as we look at our cut targets, again, as Maria's indicated, the focus is on funding at a level we could keep whole through the next funding cycle. With that commitment and the commitment to keeping our staffing levels in the way that our labor is budgeted, the areas we have to look at for our reductions include work order services requested of other departments and other work that falls outside of our core grant making. So that is what we are looking at very carefully, line by line, to come up with our required cut targets when we submit in February. And with that, I'm complete. If there are any questions at any point.
So I just wanted to reiterate, we are looking at $8 million of cuts for year one, another $8 million for year two, with a $4 million contingency for year one and for year two. The way that we're planning on getting to the $8 million is by reducing work orders that we have with other departments. Now, most of you know, a lot of the work orders that we send to other city departments go directly into CBOs. So the reason why we don't have a slide right now is because we're working with city departments to really figure out and understand the impact of what that means. So once we realize once we understand that the other departments are making the same exact cut, then we'll have to figure out a different strategy. But the first strategy is for us to look at work orders that do not align with what we are doing, our core work. So we're gonna, those are very easy or easier to cut because it does not align within the SAP that we work really hard on and within the RFP strategies. So cutting those will get us a good chunk of funds. And then the remaining will be negotiations with other city departments. I think that we are also looking at ways to negotiate with other funding strategies and funding areas or funding strategies to see if we can cover different potential gaps that might happen. So maybe increase a certain, fundraising strategy or moving some state funds around so that we could fill gaps. Right now, we believe that with this strategy, we'll be able to stay within the range that we posted for the RFP. Okay, so I'm gonna say that and then not, and then do whatever else you guys need to do. But the range within the RFP was, I think it was a $10 million range, right? So help me, Judy.
To 94.
89 to $94 million. We believe that with this strategy, if there's nothing else going on, we will be able to stay in the lower range, but within the range. And for context, the last 5-year cycle, the last RFP, the RFP that we are all living in right now, the range for that RFP was
70 million to 76 million.
70 million to 76 million. So we are already talking off the bat a much significant increase from the last RFP. But we also know that over the last 5 years, a lot have changed. We understand that CBOs need larger grant amounts so that they can have address wage issues. There are needs for high-risk young people, high-risk families. So we understand that. We also understand that the cost of doing business and the cost of providing high-level service has increased. And so we're all going to try to figure out how to make this work. We've shared before that even without a budget cut, we knew that we might have fewer CBOs because of the way we were changing the strategies. So we might be in the same place, have fewer CBOs, larger grants, that is still on the same path that we've been talking about. We were just very worried that we would have to be even outside the range of the RFP, but right now we're still in that range. And so I feel hopeful that we can stay within that. And with that, I'm complete. I give it back to the chair.
Thank you. Is there any in-person public comment on this item?
At the last meeting, you mentioned that there was still an issue with the FEMA forms not being paid.
Yep.
That's still.
Yes.
So that factored into these tests as well, as a part of,
Yes.
like, not potentially not getting the grant for the salary.
Yes. Yes. So federal reimbursement has not come in at the rate that we are submitting invoices. So we are submitting invoices, but they keep getting bounced back. So they're not getting paid. And you all have also seen that the governor the governor issued his budget a couple of days ago, and the deficit has grown by almost $60 million. So what we thought a couple of months ago is now completely changed. So we're now at a state level, $60 million even deeper in the hole. And on the federal level, I haven't looked at that budget, but all we know is that FEMA has not reimbursed San Francisco and other counties, not just San Francisco, and other counties for a lot of our, the COVID shelters. It's primarily the shelters, which primarily was the biggest drop on our funds.
Any others? Raphael, is there any remote public comment?
There are no public comments.
Okay, public comment is closed. On behalf of the committee, I just wanted to say thank you to you and the team, because I know this must be really difficult and not where you would like to be at the beginning of the year. But obviously appreciate the hard work and the thoughtfulness that's going into, you know, this for this year and for coming years. So thank you. The next item on the agenda is the report from the Service Provider Working Group from co-chairs Madison Holland and Frederick Claremont.
Hi, everyone, Madison speaking. I wanted to start off with Frederick, and then we have a Gypsiana here who also will do an introduction in a minute. I'm just gonna start off with some quick highlights from 2023. I know it's like our first year with a little bit more infrastructure, so just wanted to share some of those highlights. We built a lot of infrastructure, including our Google Book Suite, our domain, building a website, lots of more opportunities for members to engage with us in virtual spaces that are more organized and systematic. We created our membership tracking form to better understand who our members are and what they're looking for. We currently have 106 members who have filled out that form. We have 300 on our mailing list, so we're trying to get 200 others to do that, but 106 we're pretty proud of. And we've increased our overall membership engagement in a variety of different ways, which I've shared in some previous meetings as well. Our wage equity work, which everybody here knows is super important, and Maria brought up in her update as well. And in these times, it's really, really difficult, but we know that it's extremely important to maintain the quality of services, is to figure out a way to retain and pay staff quality wages. So we started our job board, which advertises nonprofits paying livable wages. We started our Children's Champion campaign, highlighting our membership, the amazing work that they're doing. We've been a part of the Controller's Office nonprofit policy group. And then we've also started working on a couple of research questions, which I'll get into in the next part of the update. But another huge win is that we've hired someone to help out a little bit. So this is Gypsiana, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Gypsiana Wendy. I'm happy to be here and meet with all of you. A little bit of background information about me is that I have some nonprofit experience. I've done work at Legal Services for Children, working with guardianship and education cases. So that was really awesome. It just got my foot in the door a little bit. I'm in grad school right now. I'm studying for my MSW at Cal State State. So I'll be graduating fairly soon. Super excited about that. I attended San Jose State University for my undergrad in communication studies. And I'm super excited just to be a part of SPWG and just to get to meet and get to know each and every one of you. So thank you for having me.
We're super excited.
Welcome.
So Gypsiana is our community engagement coordinator. So she's helping with some of the social media stuff, our membership management, all new creative ideas. That's good. So with that, I'll transition into another update around our wage equity work. So we are in the final process of finalizing, working with a consultant to develop a report. We have two primary research questions that we're looking to address in this report. So I'm just going to read them to you all. The first is, what is the demographic composition of the nonprofit workforce in San Francisco? Specifically with regard to people of color, women, and LGBTQ+ individuals, and to what extent do they disproportionately occupy lower paying roles within the sector? So with this question, we're trying to understand and define this issue as an equity issue, right? Which populations is this affecting, and kind of telling the story of the composition of the workforce. Our second question is, what are the successful strategies, practices, and policies, both locally and nationally, that nonprofit organizations can adopt to achieve sustainable wage increases? And how could government partners and private philanthropists also support those efforts? This part of the question is obviously the more looking at systemic, sustainable solutions that we all, as nonprofits, as government employees, as philanthropists, can contribute to sustainably increase wages for nonprofit workers. So we will keep this group updated on this report, and how we plan to kind of leverage it in our steps in the future.
So if any of you know data points, the data reports that can inform this work, please let Madison know. We already have controls report that was issued last year. The different reports, but if there's anybody who is a nonprofit or research things specific to the locality, please let us know.
Yeah, over the years, you all know, we've been looking at this stuff for a while, so we've developed like a shared drive of lots of different reports, and we got data from DCYF a couple of years ago as well, so thank you all for that. That's also included in our database of information, but if there are relevant reports or data that you all are aware of, please do share those, because one thing that we all know here is that there's a lot of different efforts happening in different departments, and it looks different within each department as well. So we're really wanting to like pull all of that together and tell the full picture of what's going on. The last part of our update was just some questions that our members had regarding the RFP submission. So a lot of our members we had a lot of folks that were new to the DCYF process this year and had their interviews. We know that's been a lot for DCYF. But at our last meeting, we did have a list of questions that I will forward to you all, but I can just go over a couple of them. Folks are wondering how many new applicants you had, how many of those applicants were fiscally sponsored programs, so that have the support of bigger nonprofits, how many for-profit proposals. Folks had questions about approaching partial funding and things like that. So I can forward those questions to this group so you all have that full list, and I don't expect you to go through and answer them one by one right now, but maybe if there's a way we can get some responses to some of those questions for the our next membership meeting, either at the end of this month or in February, that would be great.
It's for profit by category. Our results are.
And that is the end of our update.
No, I'm super excited. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, thank you. Is there any in-person public comment? Raphael, is there any remote public comment? Public comment is closed. Are there any committee members that wish to comment? Okay, with that, we will move to the report of the OAC Vice Chair, since I'm standing in today for our chair. As we mentioned at our December meeting, we are planning an OAC retreat for April this year. And we're still working on arranging the agenda and timing for that. So I think there will be more to come from Rebecca on that at some point. That concludes my report. Is there any public comment?
Is that include SPWG or the immediate district chair representation?
I think, I'm sorry, Maria, I'll let you tell
I believe in our last conversation with Jada, she wanted the SPWG at the retreat.
She wanted to discuss it at the executive committee before deciding.
Well, it's a public meeting, because we can't hold private meetings. But I think we were trying to figure out, if there's a role that SPWG could play or not play, or is it really about, because I think our chair wanted to spend the bulk of the time, grounding the members on DCYF. And the DCYF, just like the way of us, like DCYF doing business, like how do you do business here? And then and then going in depth on the bylaws, with the members. So I think she's trying to figure out how to bring in SPWG in a meaningful way without wasting their time.
Wherever you land, just keep this up.
Yeah.
Raphael, is there any remote public comment?
There's no remote.
Public comment is closed. Are there any committee members that wish to comment? Next on the agenda is the report of the DCYF director.
This is like record. Yeah, I'm not gonna jinx it though. Okay, so as you all can imagine, it's just budget, budget, budget. Lots of budget conversations with city departments. The mayor's office is also convening lots of cross-city department budget conversations so that we can come together and have these conversations about reductions. That's not isolated from each other because we all work within one system. So I just feel like the approach that we're making, that we're taking on budget it's a very different approach. And I really appreciate the mayor and the mayor's office and leading these conversations and trying to push departments to be a little bit more creative on how to get to a number, as opposed to just coming in and, slicing and dicing. So I think it's a different strategy. So hopefully that will yield a more nuanced budget. And for DCYF's perspective, a nuanced budget that will preserve the safety net that we've built over the many years. So speaking of a safety net and speaking of RFP, we do have some data I wanted to share and updates about the RFP. So thankfully, we had what we perceive to be a very successful online submission process. We had hundreds of people in the system. We received hundreds of people submitting within the last few hours of the deadline, and everything went swimmingly well. So that's just major kudos to our IT system, to Charisse and the entire team for doing multiple versions of it's all Charisse. I know.
And we just, it didn't crash.
It didn't crash. No, legit. We were all like, it didn't crash. And I think it was just amazing. And even people who had struggles or had issues, we were able to get back with them and they were able to get in. And, it was just, it was amazing that it went well. So with that said, we received a total of 700 proposals. So if you all had office pools out there, the number is 700. So hopefully anyone who won can buy themselves something nice. We received a total of 286 agencies that submitted. So 286 different agencies submitted an application to us. Of that, 183 of them were new agencies. So a lot of new agencies. And that could, and that's a combination of a bunch of CBOs who were fiscally funded in the past and now decided and have spent the last 5 years building out their fiscal infrastructure, and now they're ready to stand on their own. And it, of course, also includes new CBOs. Oh, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong numbers. So 286 agencies, 183 are current agencies, and 103 are new agencies. So 100 new agencies, 100 new agencies to us, with a total request amount of well over $400 million, which is a lot of money, and we don't have that. And all we have, you all have already heard, is $87 million to $96 million. I don't have the other questions about for-profits and fiscal agents. We don't have that yet. So what we do, so where we are now in the phase of the RFP process is that we've completed reviewer scoring, and our staff are going out and doing the site visits or interviews. We expect to finish that this week, I think. And then next week we'll start deliberation process. So it's gonna be weeks and weeks of deliberation, and hopefully we'll be able to have some preliminary products to share with our city partners, and then we'll then share with the mayor's office, and hopefully we'll be able to make our announcement on time. Well, we have to make our announcement on time because many of you are running summer programs. So you all need to know what the number is before you start planning for summer. So we are projected to be on time with our announcement, barring any major economic catastrophe. Okay, and then last but not least, want to share that we have our summer resource fair summer resource fair in February. So Saturday, February 24th, from 11 to 2 p.m. at the San Francisco County Fair Building. If you want to come, please let Rebecca know, and we can maybe do like a little OAC gathering. Or at a minimum, please let her know so we can take pictures of you all. Be nice to take pictures of you all, in engaging with our CEOs and other children and families in the city. We have flyers here for folks who want to take any and share with your constituents. With that, I'm complete.
Thank you. Is there any in-person public comment? Raphael, is there any remote public comment?
There are no further comments.
Public comment is closed. Are there any committee members that wish to comment on this item?
I have a question on the summer resource fair. Because I'm a part of the youth commission itself, so I was wondering, is there a possible chance that we could table at that event?
I will connect you with Emily, the coordinator for the summer resource fair, and she can answer your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. The person that manages the summer resource fair is very diligent about trying to squeeze as many people in the room as the fire chief allows. So she's always playing this very dangerous. But for the youth commission, we'll see. Maybe you can table outside.
If there are no other comments, the next on the agenda is review of action items. The planning of the retreat, as we discussed, there'll be more to come on that from Chair Jada. And our other topic is the next OIC meeting is set for Monday, February 12th. Is there any in-person public comment on either of those items? Raphael, is there any remote public comment? Public comment is closed. Are there any committee members that wish to comment? Okay, with that, thank you everyone for your participation in today's meeting. This meeting is adjourned at 5:40 p.m.
Oh.